Hello everyone, this is NK Sharma and today we will discuss about the first chapters, that is the climate. So today we will discuss about the whatever things which is lies within the chapters of climate and how the climate influence in India and how the monsoon which is generate in the Indian conditions and how the there is many elements which is affected the climates of India. So first we will discuss one by one. So first we have to move on the topic that is called as climate. The climate is the branch of physical geography. So if we divide the branch of geography, that is the first part is the physical geography and the second is the human geography, in which we study about whatever the parts of economies or the industrial locations, whichever is located, which is we study in the human geography, and other segment also including the population geography, which is also mentioned in the human geography. And first the topic which I am dealing with today, that is the climate, which is the part of the physical geography. First we have to understand about the concept that is the lies in the geography, that is I am seeing the geography divided into two parts, that is the physical geography and second one is the human geography. Both have the applications, which is study about the Indian geography. There is the also use of population geography and the human geography. First we are moving towards the physical geography, in which physical geography also further divided into climatology, then the geomorphology, oceanography, oceanology or oceanography, and these are the sections which we have to deal in the geography, mainly the physical geography section, and others like the some portion of geology, which is also the branch of physical geography, in which the climatology we study about the climate of any particular region or the factors which is associated with the climate. Factors including the temperature, pressure, wind, that is the ocean currents, altitude, latitude. These are the some factors which associate with the climate. In geomorphology we will mainly discuss about the landforms, how these landforms evolved, what was the reasons behind the formation of the Himalayan mountain ranges, how the formation of the any plains like the mountains, hills, plateaus, etc. are lies in the geomorphology. Then oceanography we will study about the ocean bottom relief, that means the features of the oceans, that the which type of, like the formation of atolls, formation of the corals reef, how these type of things that is placed within the ocean surface we have to study in this oceanology or oceanography. Then in the geology mainly we have to focus on the formation of earth, or how the life evolved on this earth's surface. So this is the just background of this chapter, or the branches of the geography in which how to deal with it. And the finally human geography also branches some, it is also divided in some branches, including the settlement geography, then the population geography, then the economic geography, and further include the prospect in the human geography, that is called as prospect in the human geography, mainly called as the applied geography. This is the background of the mainly the geography sections, how these chapters are divided, how these units are divided. So first of all we have to move on the chapters that is called as the climate. First we focus on this and then further move on the Indian parts how these the monsoons evolved on the Indian oceans, and further how two branches of the monsoons, that is the south west monsoon and the southeast monsoon. And the finally after the retreating of the monsoon, which is in the period of winter season, which is caused rainfall in the mainly in the Tamil Nadu coast. So first we have to focus on the chapters of the climate. There are two words associated with it, that is the weather and the climate. First we have to just take the difference between, what is the difference between weather and the climate. First is the weather and the climate. Before proceed further, we have to first understand about the elements of the climate and the weather. If we talk about the elements, then in which the including the temperature of any particular area, particular continents, temperature, then the atmospheric pressure, then the including the wind system, then further including the humidity, then ocean currents, including the latitudes, including altitudes, not and altitudes we can say. So temperature, atmospheric pressure, wind system, humidity, ocean currents, latitudes and the altitudes. As of you know, that is these are the some basic words which you have to earlier also studied about. That is the temperature, that is called as the degree of hotness and coldness, that is called as the temperature. And the atmospheric pressure, that is the force exerted, per unit area. Like this, if we consider in this diagram, that is this is the particular area, and this applied force, that is the force upon area, that is called as the pressure. That is the force applied on per unit area, that is called as the atmospheric pressure. Then including the wind system, that is wind, there are three types of winds. that is first called as the seasonal wind, then permanent wind or planetary wind, and then the third is the called as the local wind. These are the some concept which I have to further discuss about the each and every one. And next is the humidity, that is the moisture that is the trap in the area or the amount of water vapor present in the atmosphere, that is called as the humidity. Then again the ocean currents, that is the movement of water in the long distance, mainly in the constant fairly direction, that is the called as the ocean currents. And then the latitudes, as you know, that is the horizontal distance, and the altitude, it means the height from the sea. These are the some basic words which you have to know about the study about the or understand about the climatology. First, temperature, as if you know, that is the relationship between the temperature and the pressure. So then temperature and pressure, these two words which is inversely proportional to each other. Temperature is inversely proportional to pressure. It means pressure increases, then temperature will be low, and the pressure will decrease, then the temperature will high. These are the relationship, but sometimes these are not fulfilling the demand of the any particular regions. Like we study about the pressure belt, then there is the formation of subtropical high pressure belt on the 30-degree latitudes, but when we focused on the when we move further on the 60-degree latitude, that is called as the subpolar low pressure belt. Subpolar low pressure belt, that is not formed by the temperature or pressure directly relationship, but these low pressure formed by the ocean currents. That's the ocean currents, mainly the warm ocean currents, that is the water carries from the equatorial or the tropical regions. These are the some factors which we have to deal with each and every one. So we have to move further. First we have to understand about the seasonal wind, permanent wind, and the local wind. So first we have to understand about whatever elements which we have to done currently now applied on the weather. It means weather means that is in the 24 hours or in the 12 hours, that is whichever elements which is prevailed in this time period we have to consider as the weather of that particular area. If we aggregate, in the case of climate, that is the aggregates of weather, it means aggregates of weather, that is the on the daily basis, mainly more than of 30 years, that is called as the climate of that particular regions, that particular continents or subcontinents, or that is under the also latitudes we can say. So as of you know, you already done with the weather and climate. Now we have to move on the mainly winds. So in which we have to we are mentioned about the three types of wind, that is the seasonal winds. Seasonal winds means winds that is prevail in the any particular seasons, like in the rainy period. In the rainy period, that is the monsoon prevail in the Indian parts or in the Indian subcontinents. That is, monsoon is the wind that is called as the seasonal. Reversal of wind, that is called as the monsoon in the India. Then same things, that is called as typhoon. Typhoon mainly in the called as the East Pacific regions, mainly in the China regions, mainly in the Japan region, Indonesia, that is called as the typhoon or Japan. Then the hurricanes in the North America, and then the Willy Willy in the Australia, or in collectively we can say Oceania. Then second is the seasonal wind, and second is the planetary wind or the permanent wind. Seasonal wind first, second is the planetary wind or permanent wind, in which further we divided into three parts, that is called as trade, easterlies. हम सब इसके बारे में अभी जस्ट पढ़ेंगे कि कैसे इसका डायरेक्शन कैसे कहाँ पे कैसा कैसा होगा, कोरियोलिस फोर्स की वजह से ये चेंज होता है. देन दी वेस्टर्लीज, and then the on the polar areas, that is called as polar easterlies. Okay. And the third one is the local winds. Local wind can be warm wind or the cold wind. Like in the case of warm wind or cold wind, mainly in the Indian subcontinent, that is one wind that is the flow in the Indian subcontinent or mainly in the Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, that is called as the Lu. Lu is the mainly is the warm wind. Then the Chinook, that is called as this, also called as the snow heater, mainly in the North American regions, North America. Chinook, then the sea breeze and the land breeze. These are the local winds, that is the prevail in the local condition or in the local area. Sea breeze mainly it is caused by the temperature difference or the pressure difference over the ocean or the land mass. So during the daytime, sea breeze mainly is the prevail. Mainly this wind flow from the sea to land, that is the moderate the temperature of the land surface, and land breeze, that is the land to sea, mainly in the night period, because when the heat domes structures which are the present on the surface of earth, then these winds moderate the temperature of that particular area. Okay, then we have to move further. These are some basic terms which we have to keep in our mind, and these are the elements of the climate. Now the factors that affect the climate, in which we study about the temperatures, same things, but here is some including the winds that is associated with it, or the ocean currents. फैक्टर्स अफेक्टिंग क्लाइमेट, किसी भी रीजन का वहाँ का क्लाइमेट जो है वो कौन कौन चीज़ की वजह से, कौन कौन फैक्टर की वजह से वहाँ के टेम्परेचर में या फिर वहाँ के प्रेशर में डिफरेंस आ सकता है, वो कि उसके पीछे में रीज़न क्या क्या चीज़ होता है. देन फर्स्ट दैट इज़ कॉल्ड एज द टेम्परेचर ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर एरिया. देन सेकेंड इज़ द प्रेशर. Then third one is the latitude. Then fourth is the altitude. Then fifth one is the physiography of that particular area. Physiography, or mainly we can say geographical terrain. Then the ocean currents, and seven is the wind. These are some factors that affect the climate of mainly particular area. We have already discussed about some factors in the elements part. So here is the some new words that is the called as physiography or the geographical terrain. Mainly in the physiography called as the mountain, then the hills, plateau, then the coastal plains, or we can say coastal regions, then the deserts, then the plains, islands of that particular area. Okay, these are some the physiography or the geographical terrain that is associated with that regions. Coastal plains or regions, deserts, plains, these are some basic words, and we are discussed about the how these type of like the deserts are formed, mountains, hills, plateaus. These are the some alag other segment which we have to study in the geomorphology or in the geology sections, how the formation of soils takes place. All are the sections of geography, different types, different branch of geography. So we are study one by one. Then in the case of, we have to study about the mainly about the Indian conditions. So these winds are deflected by the some regions or some factors that is called as the Coriolis force. Coriolis force, and the Coriolis force is the pseudo force, or also called as the Farrell's law. Pseudo force or the Farrell's law. So the Coriolis force mainly is the generated by the rotation of earth. As we know, the earth is revolving around the sun, so movement of, mainly we can say, movement of earth, movement of earth having two motions, that is called as the rotational motions, and second is the called as the evolution. So in the rotation case, the changing of the day and night, that is the called as the rotation, and the year change, that is called as revolution. One revolution, that is the in the 365, and we can say 365 or one today leap years, that is the generated. We, as if you know, these are some basic things. So movement of earth is the west to east. So you know, in the your elementary educations, teachers teach you about the sun's rises in the east and the sunset in the west. This is the not the actual regions behind it. This is the regions because of we are not moving. It means we are moving around the sun. Sun is the fixed at the positions, and we are just, there are two terms, that is the rotation and the evolution, or the we can say revolution also. So west to east direction is caused by mainly Coriolis force, that is the caused by rotation of earth. So as if you know, if I draw the diagram, the how to affect the Coriolis force, then I can erase this portion, and now you have to focus on the board how the Coriolis force change the direction of the wind. If we, this is the equator, if we mentioned on this diagram, so this is the equator, and this is the northern hemisphere, and this is the southern hemisphere. So as you know, the wind is the flow from high pressure to low pressure zones. If the wind direction is like this, and second one is the direction like this, same things also in the southern hemisphere. This is the direction of the wind. Due to the Coriolis force, Coriolis effect, these winds are deflected mainly in the northern hemisphere. It moves toward the right direction, mainly in the clockwise direction, or in the southern hemisphere in the anti-clockwise direction. It means if the direction of this wind is like this, then the actual direction of the wind is like this. It means the right of this, if the arrow, यहाँ पे ध्यान देना, this is the arrow, तो इस एरो के हिसाब से राइट में डायरेक्शन इस तरफ से होगा, और अगर ये विंड अगर का डायरेक्शन इस तरफ से है तो ये वाला पार्ट इसका लेफ्ट होगा, इधर ये वाला पार्ट राइट होगा. दिस इज द डायरेक्शन ऑफ विंड ड्यू टू द कोरियोलिस इफेक्ट. सेम थिंग्स इन द कंडीशन ऑफ सदर्न हेमिस्फीयर. These winds deflect towards the left in the southern hemisphere, like the wind is the on the vertical sides or arrow is upwards, then the direction of this wind is like this, and the arrow is downward, then the direction of these winds are just opposite to northern hemisphere. Okay, so this is the condition of Coriolis force. Now we apply on the basis of latitude. So I'm drawing the just diagrams, and then we move towards the pressure belts, how these winds are create the pressure belts, like the tropical high pressure belts, equatorial low pressure belts, how these are generates. We have to do one by one. So I'm just drawing the diagram of this. Like in this diagram, this is the equator. This is the 30-degree latitude, then 60-degree, and this is the polar areas, that is the 90-degree. As you know, the temperature decreases with the height. So on the 0-degree, that is the equator called as equator, where the temperatures is high throughout the year. So the temperature will high, then the pressure will low, that is the called as the sorry So here is the on the 0-degree latitude, that is called as the equatorial low pressure. Then on the 30-degree latitude, that is called as the subtropical high pressure. Then the same things, that is the on the southern hemisphere, also called as the subtropical high pressure belts. Then the on the 60-degree latitude, that is the called as the subpolar low pressure belts, or on the 90-degree, that is called as the polar high pressure, that is the temperatures on the freezing point, at the freezing point. So the high pressure will develop on the polar areas. Same things like the southern hemisphere applied on the northern hemisphere, that is the polar high pressure belts. Then on the 60-degree, that is called as the subpolar low pressure. As you know, wind flow from high pressure to low pressure. So the direction of these winds are high pressure to low. So these are the direction of wind, and due to the Coriolis effect, these are changed further. then polar high pressure belts, so due to the Coriolis force we applied on this, like the 0 degrees latitude, that is the ELP, then direction is like this. We have to discussed on the mainly in the northern hemisphere. The northern hemisphere, the direction of wind is like this, then the arrow of the wind direction is like the easterly direction, like this. Then just opposite of it, these are the actual wind direction due to the Coriolis effect. Same things in the case of southern hemisphere, the direction of wind like this, then it is just bent towards the west direction, that is the called as the easterlies. That means the wind that is the flow from east to west direction, that is the called as the easterlies. Then on the 30 degree, that is wind direction is like the downward, then the direction of these winds are the on the eastern sides, that is the winds coming from the western part, that is the called as the westerlies. Okay, so as you nomenclature of these winds, that is the first called as 60 to 90 degree latitudes called as the polar easterlies. Then on the 30 to 60 degree latitude, that is the called as the westerlies. And the 0 to 30 degree, that is the called as trade winds, or also called as easterlies, trade easterlies. Easterlies means direction of with this wind are west to east. Also this is called as 30 to 60 degree, that is called as the westerlies, and in the same case called as the polar easterlies. As we draw the diagrams like on the globe or on the surface of earth, then we can also draw the diagrams in the 2D, where we have to just mention on the line about the polar easterlies or westerlies wind direction and the subtropical high pressure belts where these winds are formed. So I am now drawing another diagram of same things, so I can erase. Sorry. Please keep things in your mind about the layers of atmosphere, that is the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, including the ionosphere, and then the exosphere. So winds change their direction when these winds are reached to the stratosphere. So when we travel in the aeroplanes, we feel the turbulence in the stratospheric regions or the tropopause. Like this is the 0 degree latitude and this is the 90 degree north and south. Okay, so here we can say 30 degree north and south, and here is the 60 degree north and south. So as you know, 0 degree latitude, it means the equatorial low pressure will develop. So if temperature will low, then it should be the air masses, the wind will be rise on the 30 degree or sorry the 0 degree latitude, so on the mainly in the equatorial parts. So these winds are move further, rise further, and when these winds reach the stratospheric layers, then these winds are deflected due to the stratosphere. If these winds are change their direction, it means after some times these winds will be slow, and if the wind will slow, then the kinetic energy will be zero, or then the potential energy will be started. kinetic energy यहाँ पे जैसे ही जीरो होगा तो विंड जो है यहाँ पे सिंक करना स्टार्ट करेगा. विंड जैसे ही यहाँ पे सिंक करेगा तो कौन सा विंड सिंक करता है, जिसका प्रेशर ज़्यादा रहेगा. तो ऑब्वियस सी बात है कि यहाँ पे 30 डिग्री नॉर्थ एंड साउथ पे सब ट्रॉपिकल हाई प्रेशर विल डेवलप. ओके, this is the region will be created. Same things as you know on the 90 degree north and south, this is the polar areas. So here temperature will be low and pressure will be high, that is called as the polar high pressure. So wind will be always, air mass will be sink always. So the direction of the wind is like this, the sinking winds or sinking air mass we can say. So this is the reasons behind it, and we also focus or mentioned about the one things that is called as the ocean currents. So because of ocean currents, here on the 60 degree north and south, that is the front formation takes place due to the warm front and cold front. That is the wind coming from the polar areas, that is the called as cold winds, and the wind coming from the tropical areas, that is the called as the warm winds. When these winds are collide to each other, that is the formation of the temperate cyclones, and the rainfalls occurred in the 60 degree or on the 40 degree latitudes, 50 degree, that is called as the furious called as the on the 40 degree latitude, that is the called as the roaring 40s. Then the on the 50 degree latitude, that is called as the furious 50s, and the on the 60 degree latitude, that is called as the shrinking 60s. Okay, these are the words which is used in the geography for the mainly 40 degree latitudes, 50 degree latitudes, and the 60 degree, that is called as 40 degree, that is called as the called as the roaring 40s, furious 50s and the shrinking 60s. So because the temperatures of the air mass will be decreases. So because of this, low pressure will develop on the 60-degree latitude, that is called as subpolar low pressure belt will formed on the 60-degree north and south. So wind should be, or air mass should be rise further. Then these winds reaches to the stratosphere, then change the direction of these winds, that is towards the, some winds towards the polar areas. So here is the high pressure will be developed. Here is the, then some winds are get towards like this and completed the chain of these winds. And these winds are rotating in nature, so rotates on the earth's surface. So this is the direction of these winds. So in this 0 to 30-degree latitudes, that is the called as the Hadley cell. Between the 30 to 60 degree, that is called as the Ferrel cells, and between the 60 to 90 degree, that is called as the polar cell. So I'll see you tomorrow. रात ज़्यादा हो चुकी है तो मैं यहाँ पे सेशन को वाइंड अप करना चाहूँगा। फिर हम लोग कल मिलते हैं, फिर यहाँ से आगे हम लोग कल डिस्कस करेंगे। हम लोग अब इंडिया में एंटर करेंगे और वहाँ पे मानसून के बारे में हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे। मानसून वहाँ पे कैसे प्रिवेल करता है, रीजन्स क्या चीज़ है, सब कुछ। ओके, थैंक यू।